The wind howled across the cracked plains of Dravis 4. Dust storms covered the sky, hiding the distant mountains from view. In the center of the colony, broken buildings stood like skeletons, their walls blackened by fire. The Creel had come. Like a swarm, attacking without mercy, cutting off every path to escape. Inside the command center, Commander Nora Blake leaned over a flickering console. Her face was tired, dark circles under her eyes. Her uniform was torn, but her eyes were sharp. Across from her, Engineer Ethan Cole struggled with a rusted panel, sparks flying each time he touched the wires. "If this generator fails," Ethan said, his voice tight, "the shield will fall." Nora nodded. "We lose the shield, we lose everything." The shield was the only thing keeping the Creel from finishing their attack. The alien ships circled above like vultures, watching and waiting. The moment the energy field dropped, they would strike. Outside, people moved quietly. No one spoke. Parents held their children close. Wounded soldiers sat against walls, clutching their weapons. Food was gone. Medicine had run out days ago. They drank recycled water and ate dried protein paste that tasted like sand. They had sent distress signals for weeks, but none had reached Earth. Or if they had, no one had answered. "We were promised support," Nora whispered to herself. Ethan looked up. Maybe Earth never got the message. Maybe the Creel jammed everything. Nora didn't respond. She just stared at the blinking red light on the console. That light meant their signal was still trying, still fighting to get through. Suddenly, the power surged. Lights dimmed, then flared. The shield outside flickered. A loud alarm blared. "No, no, no," Ethan shouted, jumping to his feet. He opened the side panel and reached inside. The generator coughed and sparked. The whole station trembled. "Can you fix it?" Nora asked, stepping back. "Maybe, but it's holding on by threads. If we keep using it, it will burn out." "We don't have a choice," Nora said. "We hold the shield or we die." She turned away and climbed the narrow stairs to the broadcast chamber. It was a small room, filled with static. Old screens lined the wall, most of them broken. Only one mic. "Work." She sat down and pressed the red button. "This is Commander Nora Blake," she said calmly. Her voice echoed through the speakers. "This may be our last message. We are under siege on Dravis 4. The Creel have cut off all communications. Supplies are gone. Medical help is gone." She paused, breathing slowly. "We have not given up. Even now our people stand together. We fight with everything we have. We will not surrender. We will not run. And if this message reaches anyone, know this: we will not die forgotten." She let go of the button. Ethan walked in, his face pale. "The generator, it might last another hour, maybe 2. Nora looked out the narrow window. She saw the Creel ships, slowly moving, their dark metal bodies glowing with energy. The enemy was patient. They were watching the shield fail bit by bit. "We can't do this much longer," Ethan said softly. Nora didn't answer. Her mind went to the children hiding underground, the young soldier with only one arm who still stood. Guard, the old doctor treating wounds with nothing but cloth and hope. "What if they don't come?" Ethan asked. "Then we fight till the end." Down below, people were gathering. Some came to the center, hoping for news. A mother carried her child, wrapped in a silver blanket. A teenage boy handed out the last pieces of protein paste. A blind man sang an old Earth song to keep the children calm. Suddenly, the shield flickered again. A sharp buzzing filled the air. The sky turned red. The Creel ships moved closer. In the control room, Ethan screamed, "We're losing power." Nora ran back down the stairs. She grabbed the emergency lever and pulled it. The shield flared back to life, brighter than before, but they both knew it wouldn't last. "That was the last surge," Ethan said. "Now it's just a countdown. Nora stared at the ceiling. She imagined the stars, the long distance between Dravis 4 and Earth. Somewhere out there, someone might have heard her voice, or maybe not. If we die, Ethan said, sitting beside her. At least we die fighting. Nora gave a tired smile. That's all we ever did. Outside, the wind roared again. The dust swallowed the ruins. People held hands, prayed, waited. In space, the Creel ships began to charge their main weapons. But far beyond the dust, beyond the ruined sky, something moved. No one saw it yet, but it was coming. The shield pulsed weakly, as if it were breathing its final breath. On the edge of the colony, the outer buildings began to crumble. Each tremor from the Creel weapons shook the ground like thunder. Dust fell from the ceiling of the command center, and loose wires sparked like lightning. Nora stood quietly, staring at the horizon through a cracked window. The red haze of Dravis 4's atmosphere made everything look like it was on fire. But it wasn't the fire that frightened her. It was the silence. The Creel ships had stopped firing. Why aren't they shooting? Ethan asked, his voice low. Nora didn't turn around. They're watching, waiting, testing us. Or preparing for the final strike. Exactly. Below, in the shelters, people were restless. Whispers filled the dark halls. Some asked if they should run into the mountains. Others wondered if surrender was possible. But most waited, their hopes fading with each second. The sky above Dravis 4 shifted. A large Creel dreadnought moved into view. Its hull was black like coal, glowing with strange purple symbols. Its front cannons opened slowly, humming with deadly energy. It was a warning. The final shot would come soon. We can't stop that, Ethan said as he looked at the radar. We don't have to stop it, Nora replied, still watching the sky. We just have to survive it. He gave a small laugh. That's the most impossible thing you've said all week. A light on the console blinked. Nora raised an eyebrow. What's that? Ethan leaned over, adjusted the static-filled screen, and narrowed his eyes. It's something just entered the system. A jump signature, very large. Another Creel ship? No, this one's different. It's not on any Creel pattern. And it's not responding to any codes. The radar flickered, then showed a massive object far beyond the planet's orbit. It was moving fast, faster than any known Earth ship. Could be a ghost signal, Ethan muttered. Or it could be real, Nora whispered. Suddenly, the ground shook. This time not from the Creel, but from the sky itself. A bright flash tore through the clouds. A sonic boom cracked the air like a whip. People rushed outside, shielding their eyes from the glare. Even the Creel paused, scanning the atmosphere. Out of the sky came a shadow. At first, it looked like a falling star, burning and bright. But then it slowed, turned, and revealed its true form, a ship. A massive dark ship. No one had seen anything like it. It had sharp wings like blades, a long armored hull, and engines that glowed blue like the core of a sun. The ship didn't fly like normal craft. It glided, smooth and deadly, like a predator. It flew over the colony. Just once, slow, silent. Then it stopped above the Creel fleet. On the ground, everyone stared up. No one moved. Not even the children cried. Ethan's voice cracked. Is that ours? Nora blinked, barely breathing. I don't know, but it's beautiful. The mysterious ship hovered above the Creel dreadnought. For a few seconds, everything was still. Then the unknown ship lit up. Blue shields surrounded it like armor. Hidden panels opened along its sides. Hundreds of smaller drones and fighters launched like a swarm of sparks. And then it fired. A single beam of white-hot energy struck the Creel dreadnought. The purple glow vanished. The massive ship cracked down the middle and exploded incomplete. Silenced. The people on the ground fell to their knees. They didn't cheer. They didn't speak. They just watched. Nora slowly lowered her comlink. Send a signal, she said. To who? Ethan asked. To that ship. Ask for their name. He sent the signal. A few seconds later, a response came through. Just one word. Valor. Nora felt something in her chest, a mix of relief and awe. She whispered the name. Valor. Above them, the mysterious ship turned again. And this time, it faced the rest of the Creel fleet. The war wasn't over, but something had changed. Help had come, and it came wrapped in silence, steel and fury. The Creel fleet began to scatter. Their tight formation broke as smaller ships darted away like frightened insects. The mysterious human ship hovered silently above them, casting a long shadow over the battlefield. In the command center of the colony, Ethan watched the radar in disbelief. That ship. It's not like anything I've ever seen. It's too advanced, even for Earth. Nora leaned forward. What are its specs? Any ID code? Ethan shook his head. No signal, no registration. Just one word from the transmission. Valor. Nora repeated the name under her breath. Isis Valor. The name sounded like a legend, a whisper from a forgotten war. But here it was, real and alive, moving with a power that defied everything. Above, the Valor released another wave of drones. They were sleek, like metallic birds, and fast. They split into coordinated squadrons, striking Creel vessels with precise hits. Each drone moved with intelligence, like it knew its target before it even fired. The Creel tried to fight back. Their plasma turrets fired wildly, but the drones weaved between the beams like dancers. Creel destroyers began to fall from the sky, crashing into the rocky surface of Drevis 4, sending clouds of fire and dust into the air. Inside the colony, the people came out of hiding. Slowly, carefully, they stepped into the light. The elderly leaned on children. The wounded were carried by friends. They looked up at the sky and saw something they hadn't seen in weeks. Hope. Can we connect with the ship? Nora asked. Ethan worked his console, trying to patch in now. They're not using any open channels. It's like they have their own system. Suddenly, a soft voice came through the speaker. This is Captain Mason. Drake of the ISS Valor. Your distress signal was received. Stand by. The voice was calm, commanding, and human. Nora grabbed the mic. This is Commander Nora Blake of Drevis 4. We're holding with what little power we have. Shields are critical. We have civilians, many injured. We didn't think anyone was coming. A short silence, then Captain Drake replied, You are not forgotten. Valor stands with you. Prepare for shield reinforcement. Outside, the Valor moved. Again, giant mechanical arms unfolded from its lower hull, releasing glowing devices that floated toward the colony. They positioned themselves around the perimeter and activated. A second energy field formed, blue and strong, wrapping around the original failing shield. The tremble stopped. The power stabilized. The sky above cleared. They're covering. US, Ethan whispered. They saved the shield. No, Nora corrected softly. They saved us. Far above, the Valor turned its focus back to the enemy. The main cannons charged with a soft hum. The Creel flagship, 3 times the size of any other ship, turned to face the threat. A message echoed from the Creel across all frequencies. There. Language was sharp and guttural, but the meaning was clear. This is not your war. Leave or be destroyed. Captain Drake's response came swiftly. This is humanity's world. This is our family. If you threaten them, you threaten Earth, and Earth does not forgive. Then, the Valor fired. The blast from the main cannon split through space like a blade. The energy beam struck the Creel flagship directly, tearing through its hull. Explosions followed, lighting up the sky, but the Creel were not finished. Several smaller cruisers began a suicide charge toward the Valor, hoping to crash into its side. The Valor opened dozens of small hatches, launching counter-drones. Each drone exploded. mid-air, stopping the incoming ships before they could reach. The enemy forces were being outclassed at every level. Back on the ground, Nora gave the order to begin evacuation of critical patients to the surface. Bunker now safe under the reinforced shield. Children clung to their mothers. Old miners helped carry water. Even the wounded tried to stand and walk. Over the speakers, Captain Drake spoke again. Dravis 4, hold fast. We will clear the sky. Nora stared at the sky, eyes wet but steady. Let them come, she said. Earth stands with us. And with that, the impossible became real. One ship, wrapped in mystery, born from Earth, now defended a dying world with the strength of 10 fleets. The shadow from Earth had arrived, and it would not be moved. The sky above Dravis 4 lit up like a festival of war. The ISS Valor had unleashed its full arsenal. Every weapon fired with purpose. The Creel, once confident and cruel, were now desperate. Their ships zigzagged through the air, trying to dodge the incoming blasts. But the Valor moved like it knew. Their every thought. Twin railguns on its sides launched molten projectiles that tore through hulls. Missiles curved around debris with intelligent precision, exploding inside the enemy's engines dotting the colony. The people stood on rooftops and in alleyways, watching the impossible. I've never seen anything like this, Ethan said, his voice full of awe. This ship... it's rewriting what war means. Nora didn't reply. Her eyes were on the horizon, where the largest Creel warship hovered. It began to retreat. They're running, she said. They're actually scared. A message came through the radio again, from the Valor. Commander Blake, this is Captain Drake. We are deploying ground units to support your perimeter. Hold position and prepare to receive reinforcements. Copy. That, Valor. We'll clear the drop zone. The ground beneath them trembled once more, but this time it wasn't an attack. The Valor opened its lower hangars and released sleek shuttles and drop pods. They fell through the sky like raindrops made of metal. When the pods hit the ground, they cracked open. From within stepped Earth Marines, strong, tall, and fully armored. Their suits shimmered with adaptive camouflage. At their sides, robotic units hovered, scanning for threats. The Marines quickly secured the outer edges of the colony. They moved with speed and purpose, guiding injured civilians to safety, setting up new defense lines and linking their systems. To the colony's failing tech. One Marine approached Nora and pulled off his helmet. He was young but battle-worn. Sergeant Lucas Grant, Earth Defense Forces. We're here to hold the line. Captain Drake said you've done everything you can. Now, it's our turn, Nora nodded. We're not backing down. But we're tired. Lucas smiled. Then lean on us. Earth doesn't leave its own. The Creel must have realized they were losing control. Their command ship released strange drones, fast and thin like knives. They zipped toward the colony, aiming for weak spots. Incoming! Ethan shouted. The Earth Marines raised their rifles. The robotic units beside them launched small energy fields that blocked the first wave of drones. A second wave broke through, but Nora and her people had already taken cover. The battle on the ground had begun. In the air, the Valor circled again, its main weapons recharged. A deep hum filled the skies. The Creel flagship turned and fired a barrage of dark plasma. The bolts roared toward the Valor. For a moment, it looked like even the great ship couldn't dodge them all. Then, the Valor changed shape. Panels across its surface slid open, redirecting energy. Its shield shimmered like water, and the plasma strikes vanished on contact. Then, its response came. 2 particle beams lashed out, slicing the flagship's wings clean off. A third beam cut through its midsection. The Creel flagship exploded. Shockwave shook the ground. A fireball lit the sky. Everyone, humans and Creel, alike stopped for a moment. Ethan lowered his hands from his ears. That was it. That was their command ship. We've broken their spine, Nora said. Now we crush the rest. The Earth Marines pushed forward. The Creel troops on the ground tried to regroup, but it was no use. The humans had the high ground, the better weapons, and something the Creel never understood. They were fighting for each other. At the edge of the colony, a Creel squad advanced toward the medical tents. Nora ran to intercept, her rifle shaking in her hands. Before she could reach them, 3 Marines dropped from the rooftops, taking down the aliens in seconds. "You all right, Commander?" one of them asked. Nora nodded. "Thanks to you." The radio buzzed again. "All units, this is Valor. Remaining Creel forces are retreating into orbit. Pursuit authorized. Let none escape." Above, the Valor turned once more. Its engines roared with fury. The chase had begun. And with each moment, it was clear. Earth had not only answered the call for help, it had brought fire, it had brought fury, and it had brought a promise that humanity would never be silent again. Above the burning skies of Dravis 4, the ISS Valor was preparing for its boldest move yet. Captain Mason Drake stood at the command platform, watching the scattered Creel ships on the tactical display. "We have one target left," he said. "The secondary command cruiser. It holds their warlord. We take him, the rest of their forces will break." Inside the Valor's launch bay, Earth Marines were preparing for a special mission. Among them stood Sergeant Lucas Grant and Specialist Riley Shaw. Lucas checked his pulse rifle while Riley secured the data link gear to her armor. "We're going in quiet," Lucas said. "Quick insertion, hit the bridge, capture the warlord alive." "I don't think he'll welcome us with tea," Riley replied with a smirk. The drop pod shuttles were sleek and black, designed for stealth boarding. They launched silently, slipping past the weakened Creel defense grid. The secondary command cruiser, a jagged monstrosity, floated above the atmosphere like a scar dot as the pods approached. The Valor jammed enemy sensors, creating a window of invisibility. Inside the shuttle, the Marines waited in silence, fingers tight on triggers. The only sound was their steady breathing and the distant hum of the engines. 10 seconds, Riley said. The pods slammed into the hull with a heavy thud. Explosive clamps burst outward, carving a hole in the Creel ship. The Marines stormed in, guns raised. The inside was dark and cold. The walls were lined with tubes carrying a strange green fluid. Creel warriors emerged from the shadows, armed with sharp plasma blades. "Contact!" Lucas shouted. The fight began. Blasts echoed in the tight corridors. Riley hacked the ship's systems, disabling force fields and locking down the hangars. The Creel fought fiercely, but they were unprepared for Earth's speed and tactics. One by one, the Marines pushed deeper, leaving behind trails of sparks and silence. At the bridge door, the team paused. It was sealed with a heavy barrier covered in glowing alien symbols. "We don't have time to decode this," Lucas said. "Then we break it," Rayleigh replied, pulling out a high-frequency disruptor. The device exploded in a wave of light, shattering the lock. The door groaned open. Inside stood the Creel warlord. He was massive, easily twice the height of a man. His skin was thick and ridged, his armor dark and spiked. His 4 eyes glowed red as he raised his weapon, a long staff humming with energy. "You are brave to come," the warlord growled, his voice deep and full of contempt. "We're not here for words," Lucas replied. "You're done," the warlord roared and charged. The ground shook beneath his feet. Lucas rolled aside as the staff slammed down, cracking the floor. Riley fired, but the warlord's armor deflected the shots. Lucas leapt forward, aiming for the creature's exposed side. He fired 3 times. One shot struck true, piercing the armor. The warlord staggered, but he wasn't down yet. With a roar, the warlord grabbed Lucas and threw him against the wall. The sergeant hit hard, gasping in pain. Riley screamed and jumped forward. stabbing her shock baton into the warlord's back. Electricity surged through his body. He howled and dropped to one knee. Lucas pushed himself up. Blood dripped from his mouth. He raised his rifle and aimed carefully. "This is for Dravas 4. He fired a single stun blast at full charge. The warlord collapsed. The room went quiet. Lucas limped forward and secured the cuffs around the alien's thick arms. Riley activated a beacon. Moments later, the Valor's shuttle docked to retrieve them. On the surface of Dravas 4, Nora, Blake, and Ethan watched the sky. A new message came through the comms. Mission complete. Warlord captured. Creel forces in full retreat. Repeat, full retreat. Cheers broke out across the colony. People hugged each other. Some cried. Others dropped to their knees in relief. The nightmare was ending. High above, the Valor pulled away from the ruined Creel cruiser, its job not yet finished. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. And for the first time in weeks, the people of Dravas 4 believed they would see another sunrise. All because Earth had sent not just a ship, but a symbol, a shadow, a sword, a promise. The ISS Valor. The shuttle doors slid open with a soft hiss, and the Marines stepped out, dragging the bound Creel warlord behind them. The warlord's head hung low, his heavy breathing echoing across the landing bay of the ISS Valor. Sparks flew from above as the ship finished repairs from the last battle. Captain Mason Drake stood at the edge of the platform, watching in silence. When the Marines approached, he gave a small nod. "You did well." Sergeant Lucas Grant saluted, then winced slightly from the wounds on his side. "We got him, sir. It wasn't easy." The warlord was forced to his knees before the captain. Even restrained, he still looked dangerous. His red eyes glared with hate, but also with something else, something like confusion. "Why?" the warlord growled. "Why would Earth send this monster ship? For one small world?" Captain Drake stepped forward, "Because every human life matters. And because we don't let fear decide who lives or dies." The warlord let out a harsh laugh. "Your courage will die with this place." Drake turned to his officers. "Take him to the lower cells. I want him alive until the last Creel ship is gone." As the guards pulled the warlord away, Riley walked up to Lucas. "He doesn't understand us, doesn't get why we fight." Lucas nodded. "That's what makes us different." On the surface of Dravas 4, the battle had shifted. With the Creel warlord captured, the alien command was broken. Their units scattered, leaderless and wild. Earth Marines continued sweeping through the outposts, disabling weapons and gathering survivors. Commander Nora Blake stood on the roof of the medical shelter, binoculars in hand. "What's the status?" she asked. Ethan tapped the tablet in his hands. "No more heavy movement. Most of them are retreating or surrendering. The rest are running toward the Badlands." She lowered the binoculars. "They'll be hunted if they go there." A sudden flash lit the sky, followed by a loud rumble. One of the remaining Creel warships had self-destructed. "They're destroying their own ships," Ethan said. "They don't want us to get the tech. Let them. Earth already got what it came for." Back on the Valor, Captain Drake met with his officers. The command deck glowed with blue light, screens showing real-time maps of enemy positions. "There are still escape pods launching from the Creel fleet," one officer said. Drake leaned over the console. "Intercept them. I want every one of those pods tracked. No surprises." Lucas stepped in, still nursing his bruised ribs. "Sir, request permission to lead final ground cleanup." Drake turned to him. "Are you sure you're ready?" Lucas nodded. "We didn't come this far to leave a mess behind." Drake gave a small smile. "Permission granted. Take Shaw with you." As the Valor moved slowly above the surface, its shadow passed over the colony like a protective wing. Supply pods dropped gently into the center square: food, water, medicine. People gathered around with tears in their eyes. Children waved at the sky. Some had never seen a real Earthship before. Others had only heard of Earth in stories. Now, it had come to life. In the distance, a small hill stood alone. At the top, a flag was being raised, a white cloth with Earth's blue emblem at its center. Nora watched from below, her heart finally quiet. Ethan stood beside her. "We almost didn't make it, but we did," she replied. "Because Earth came when we needed it most." Suddenly, an alert beeped from her com. A small Creel group had been spotted near the fuel reserves. "We're not done yet," she said. "Let's go." Lucas and Riley had already landed near the fuel station. Smoke rose from behind the tanks. A few scattered Creel were trying to set charges. "Not today," Lucas whispered. He signaled his squad. Gunfire lit the field. Riley moved quickly, using cover to disable 2 attackers. Lucas confronted the last Creel soldier near the main fuel line. The alien raised a blade, but Lucas was faster. He knocked the weapon aside and tackled him to the ground. "Why are you still fighting?" Lucas asked, holding him down. The Creel hissed. "You won the battle. But you will never win our fear." Lucas stood up slowly. "Then fear will be your prison. Not ours." With the final enemy defeated, the Marines stood among the wreckage. From orbit, the Valor sent one last message. "Sector secure, Creel defeated, awaiting further instructions." And with those words, the planet exhaled. The warlord's last stand had failed. And Earth had won more than just a battle. It had won a future. Smoke still curled from the edges of the battlefield, but now it rose into a peaceful sky. The stars above Dravis 4 were finally visible, no longer hidden by plasma fire or ash. For the first time in weeks, there was no fear in the air. Commander Nora Blake stood in the center square of the colony, now surrounded by Earth Marines, workers, and children. The makeshift hospital tents had been replaced by organized shelters, and fresh supplies flowed like a lifeline from the ISS Valor above. She looked tired, but she smiled. Ethan approached, holding 2 cups of warm tea. "Medic team brewed this. Said it was the least they could do." "I forgot what real tea even smelled like," Nora said, taking a sip. "Feels like a dream." From the edge of the crowd, a group of children ran up to the Marines, handing out flowers they had made from scraps of cloth and ribbon. One little girl stood on tiptoe to pin a flower to Sergeant Lucas Grant's chest. He knelt down. "What's this for?" "For saving my brother," she said, eyes shining. Lucas looked around, touched. Riley Shaw gave him a soft nudge. "Better get used to being a hero." In a quiet corner of the colony, Captain Mason Drake and Nora stood before a freshly carved stone. It was a memorial. The names of the fallen were etched into the rock, both human and alien, those who defended the colony, those who died with courage. Nora placed her hand on the top of the stone. They didn't run. They didn't beg. They just stood their ground. Drake nodded. "That's how Earth remembers its people. Not by numbers, but by heart." News broadcasts began to reach the outer colonies. Videos of the battle, clips of the Valor cutting through the Creel fleet, and interviews with survivors filled the networks. Dravis 4 became a symbol, not just of survival, but of unity. On the Valor, the warlord sat in a reinforced cell. He had stopped speaking. Instead, he stared at the stars through a small observation port, his eyes no longer glowing red, but dull and lost. "He thought we would forget Dravis 4, Riley said as she passed by the cell. "He thought wrong." Lucas joined her at the railing. He led monsters, but he never understood humans, not really. On the surface, Earth engineers were setting up a permanent defense grid, powered by the Valor's advanced systems. The colony would never be that vulnerable again. "It's strange," Ethan said while helping wire a new panel. "This place almost died, and now it feels more alive than ever. Nora looked over at the rising flag, waving gently in the wind. Sometimes it takes losing everything to know what matters. A ceremony was held at sunset. The Valor lowered its orbit, casting a warm shadow over the colony. The Marines lined up in full armor. Civilians gathered around, holding candles and flowers. Even some injured Creel prisoners, treated with fairness, stood silently. Nora stepped forward to speak. We were surrounded, outnumbered, forgotten, or so we thought. But then, out of the stars, came a shadow with a voice that said, "You are not alone." She paused, letting the wind carry her words. We survived because we stood together. We endured because we believed. And we won because Earth remembered. She raised her hand, and the Earth anthem played from speakers. It was an old song, slow and full of strength. The people sang quietly. Some cried dot as the music ended. The sky lit up with a quiet fireworks display. Not for celebration of war, but for the memory of peace hard-earned. After the ceremony, Nora and Captain Drake sat under a damaged tower, now turned into a lookout point. We'll leave soon, Drake said. There are other colonies that need help, but we'll keep the shields active. And a patrol ship will stay nearby. Thank you, Nora said, for coming. For not giving up on us. Drake looked at her. The signal you sent. That one sentence? We will not die forgotten. It shook the heart of Earth. We couldn't ignore it. They sat in silence, watching the stars. Up in orbit, the Valor turned slowly, engines humming quietly. Its sleek surface reflecting the light of Drevis 4's sun. It had come not just as a warship, but as a promise kept. And now, the galaxy knew. Earth answers, Earth remembers, and Earth protects. In the weeks that followed, the story of Drevis 4 spread. Across the galaxy. Every spaceport, news network, and outpost whispered the same name, Valor. On a quiet mining moon in the outskirts of the Helix cluster, an old man paused his work to watch the broadcast. The holoscreen showed images of the ISS Valor cutting through the Creel fleet, Marines rescuing civilians, and a small girl placing a flower on a soldier's armor. They came, the old man whispered. They really came. On Earth, crowds gathered around massive displays. People cheered, cried, and lit candles. The names of the lost were read aloud in Unity Plaza. It wasn't just a military victory. It was something deeper. Hope that the Valor didn't return to a parade. It didn't seek praise. Captain Mason Drake and his crew left Drevis 4 quietly. There were more colonies in need, more signals to answer, but what remained behind was powerful. Drevis 4 changed. New buildings rose with stronger walls. Gardens replaced scorched fields. Children played where bunkers once stood. And in the center of the colony, beside the stone memorial, stood a new statue, a sculpture of the ISS Valor in flight, with the words below, "In our darkest hour, they came." Commander Nora Blake was offered a position back on Earth, but she declined. "This is my home," she said simply, "and I'm not leaving." Ethan stayed too, teaching young engineers how to maintain the new shield tech and sharing stories about how one spark of hope can change a galaxy. Sergeant Lucas Grant and Riley Shaw returned to duty aboard the Valor. Their bond, forged in fire, only grew stronger. In quiet moments, they shared glances that spoke louder than words. And the Creel? They were never the same. With their warlord captured and their fleets shattered, many of their worlds fell silent. Others sued for peace. The galaxy, once trembling at their name, now looked toward Earth with new respect and caution, because the message had been received loud and clear. Earth protects its own. One day, a boy born on Drevis 4 would ask, did they really come from the stars just for us? And his mother would kneel beside him, smile gently, and say, yes, they did. On board the Valor, Captain Drake stood at the command bridge. The stars stretched ahead, endless and quiet. A new signal blinked on the screen. A small colony on the edge of the Orion fringe was under threat. He tapped the console. Set course. Prepare the jump. The crew moved like clockwork, no questions. No hesitation. In the hangars, Marines strapped into drop pods. Fighters were loaded. Engines roared. The Valor turned in space, and with a flash, it vanished into the fold. But legends don't disappear. They grow. In time, stories of the Valor became myths. Children played with toy replicas. Veterans spoke of its sudden arrivals and silent departures. Some swore they saw it during storms, just beyond the clouds. Others claimed it was more than a ship, a spirit of Earth's promise. But for those who knew the truth, it was simple. The ISS Valor was real, and wherever darkness rose, it would return. Because they had learned something on Dravis 4. You can take away power. You can break shields, but you can't silence the will to fight. You can't erase the sound of one voice saying, "We will not die forgotten." And once that voice reaches Earth, nothing can stop what comes next. Not fear, not fleets, not even time. Because the legacy of the Valor was not built on war. It was built on the choice to answer. And Earth will always answer.